Hey, what is up guys? So many of you have came across the video posted by Al Jazeera on the lockdown of Malaysia and the procedures that they have made. So let's take this video and watch it and review as me being a foreigner living in Malaysia and the mistakes that they have made and the biased sides that they have taken. Let's just jump straight to the video. So this video was posted about a month ago by Al Jazeera. So Malaysians have mixed feelings about this because most of the points that they have said in the video are actually a bit biased and they are not applicable to all aspects of government bodies, and not everything was covered, and many think that this is biased and tell you how much of a true information was given in this video. Let's watch it.
As Malaysia battles to contain the COVID-19 virus, authorities have been carrying out military-style operations across the capital, Kuala Lumpur. In the name of public health and safety, they've rounded up illegal foreign workers.
So in here he started saying very clearly, saying that this is illegal foreign workers, and basically what defines by illegal is they either came by illegal manners to the country or they had their improper documents set, right? So the keyword here was illegal. He mentioned it several times.
When you look at these raids, you can't help but think, is this the practical reality of dealing with a pandemic, or is it racism?
So another point that actually he made it clear is saying that it's racism. So actually I do agree with one of the videos that I watched about the top 15 mistakes made in this report is about the point they're calling out. It's about racism. It's actually racism is actually defines differently. Basically, if it's defined by your beliefs, or it defines they are segregating the groups by their skin of color, which they are not, because basically Malaysia also has like citizens like Pakistanis, and they look like Pakistanis, Nepal, Bangladesh, right? And they're also Indians who are living here. So basically they cannot accuse Malaysian authorities of being racism where they're targeting specific group. They are targeting only those which are illegal foreign workers, right? And many of you, if you know in Malaysia, right, for example in here, some of them they are Indonesians who've been locked up. So if calling it racism is basically saying that they are targeting only people who have that specific group. But if you live in Malaysia, you hardly will find the difference between some of the Indonesians and Malaysians. Or probably me as a foreigner, I find it sometimes hard to differentiate and find a difference.
We are treating them like an animal. This is not the way to treat a migrant worker. This is not the way to treat a human.
Okay, so
tidak zalim, tidak betul. Mereka tidak berhak untuk berada di negara kita kerana masuk secara haram.
101 East investigates why so many foreigners are being locked up in Malaysia's lockdown. Kuala Lumpur's migrant neighbourhoods are under siege. Any identified as areas with high infection rates have been locked in behind barbed wire and barricades. This is part of Malaysia's response to COVID-19. Across the city, people are being taken from their homes, fingerprinted, tested for the disease, and checked for valid documents. We're not allowed inside these fenced-off areas, but phone footage from local...
So here he mentioned that they're making actually an issue whereby they're saying that we are not allowed to trespass the areas which are locked in, because obviously it's, even if you're a journalist, the way COVID works, it doesn't choose whom to actually be targeting, right? and if obviously if you are a journalist and you are not allowed there, it's because that area is considered as a very dangerous area of impact of COVID is high.
Local residents gives us a glimpse inside the crackdown. Shortly after one raid, I speak with two migrants from Bangladesh. One of them tells me he's afraid to leave his apartment because he doesn't have a valid work permit.
It's not even about you are afraid to leave your... You see, they're trying to say that they are afraid to leave their apartment because they do not have legal documents. Even you had legal documents, or even you had even you're a citizen of this country, basically, many people were not even allowed to leave the house if you're in the area where COVID-19 had the highest cases. Basically, they had to lock down whole area. And another thing that they are forgetting to mention, that the food was provided for them. The food was given to them, and I believe that the deliveries were made. And what actually they're not trying to cover is actually they had many cases whereby those illegal immigrant workers in that area, they were peeing on the soldiers who were guarding them from top. So basically, the people who provide you like free food, you have to stay in the lockdown area. I'm not saying about the people who actually in lockdown and they were carried away in immigration trucks, because this is a totally different case. And because of them not having the legal documents, and even me as a foreigner having a legal documents, complying by the law, I wasn't able to live further than 10 km from my house during the MCO or buy groceries. For example, if I stay in certain area, I have to go to only the grocery shops which is close to my area, and they had police blocks everywhere around the city where I stay in Penang, for example. They had basically police roadblocks everywhere, and they have to check why are you going to that area, or what is the reason you're going. And if you say that it's because of, let's say you want to go for food or restaurant, they will ask you to either go for delivery or ask you to go, you turn back and go back home. And at most cases, people actually have to face a lot of penalty charges, like by monetary penalty charges, right?
Raihan has a valid work permit, but his friend's visa had expired. Ridoy was swiftly taken away by immigration officials.
And here I want to highlight one more thing, is they say that he has a valid pass, but his friend's visa was expired. I've personally met a lot of foreigners who came here on a tourist visa back in December, and they were given 2-3 months visas on the stay. And once the lockdown happened, the airlines were shut off and they couldn't travel back to their country. Malaysian Authority of Immigration actually passed down the law where you can extend your visa, or extend your visa within the country or not extend it, and when you're leaving the country you are not considered to be in a blacklist or deported. Once you manage to declare inside your embassy that you've been stuck here, so they can find you another airlines that can take you back to your country, they had no issue. There's no issue for deportation or being in a blacklist. I met few foreigners in Langkawi personally myself, and I asked them how long they've been in Langkawi and how long they've been around Malaysia. They said they've been here for about 6 to 7 months, and they said that all they need to do is ask from their embassy that they are staying here and they do not want to go back. And once they have this approval letter, they actually can extend their visa and can extend their stay. So Malaysia was good enough not to kick them out of the country, because let's say many of them were from Italy that I've talked to. They had a lot of cases back in their country which they didn't want to travel back to their country, and they want to remain somewhere safer like Malaysia. And most of them were staying in a budget hotels, not to run off their money budget and etc. But in bringing this case, just because your visa was expired and they had to lock you down and PTU, you cannot travel back, I don't think this is true, and I don't think it's very honest, because I know a lot of foreigners who've overstayed their visa, and they had an option actually to legally travel around Malaysia and nothing could have happened to them, and they could have leave back the country back in July.
He also has been arrested in this time. That was not his fault. His company never renewed his visa. He was arrested. You know, I run the immigration, I run the police station. I cry in the gate, please let me meet my friend.
Down the road, Raihan and I meet Forhad Chowdhury, another Bangladeshi detained in the raids. He's been working in Malaysia for over 20 years, first in construction and hotels. Then he started his own business selling fabric. But his visa expired during the lockdown, when it was impossible to renew it.
I really don't think so. He said it was really literally impossible to renew it because I've actually renewed my visa. I've renewed my employment pass about a month ago, which was still considered in a lockdown period. And I've known a lot of other people who were actually renewed during the phase of May, and even if they overstayed, I believe if, let's say, you have a legal trace of your back-end work experience on your and you have a supporting document that you work there and your company can actually give information about you to immigration, there was no any big problem about it, even if you overstayed, because Malaysian authorities are good enough to understand which situation you are from. And one thing that actually I haven't experienced is having the all documents set in Malaysia is very important. It's actually because if you actually miss some of your documents, either your process will be delayed because of you missing out some documents, and having them legally set is really important. And I believe it's in every country.
Today, Raihan is meeting Sumitha Shantini Krishna, a human rights lawyer who specialises in helping migrant workers.
So when did he become undocumented?
It's about last year. His company got bankrupt.
Okay, his company got bankrupt?
Then boss also hiding. His visa cannot renew. He cannot go back to Bangladesh because he had the loan, money, everything. So he became undocumented.
Okay, did he attempt to go to the labor department to file a case against his employer?
So you see here he says that his friend's company, which he was working for, got bankrupted, and because of this they couldn't renew his visa, which actually leaves you in one condition. If the company is bankrupted, you are not able to renew your visa, which is obvious, but you do not report this case to labor department, and you do not actually go and actually declare your work permits there. You do not declare your work documentation, and immigration doesn't know whether are you here or do you leave the country. So even the human rights activist doesn't know how to help them, because basically they do not know how deep is the case is, or whether this case is really required their attention, because no communication was made. They didn't even go to labor department.
The thing is, the people like them who are worker here, labor here, how they know the things? They don't know. So is there any way, just I want to meet my friend, is there any way?
So there is no visitation to any of the detention centers. It's not only for foreign nationals, even the lawyers cannot go into the detention centers to see their clients, because it's all closed for now.
There's little he can do to help Ridoy. But Raihan drives to the detention centre anyway, hoping to at least catch a glimpse of his friend. He can't call Ridoy to see if he's okay.
I think this video is a bit scripted, and many of the parts maybe the Bangladeshi guy have actually explained is maybe cut and not actually explained in details, so we do not know how true is it, but he is trying to meet his friend to know how is he doing. I mean, it's obviously that you cannot even visit anywhere because they do not allow anyone to enter premises. That was a common thing. I mean, we had a lot of people who even had their legal documents, for example, for buying a house. Their procedures were delayed because a lot of the government offices were locked and people were not allowed to enter, or limited amount of personnel were there. So that's why they were closing their operations and only keeping the key people inside the offices. So I do not know why actually he was trying to meet his friend.
When I come here, I become emotional. It's unbearable for me. I cannot meet him. I don't know he is eating or not. I cannot give him the food. I'm very much worried about him.
Raihan came to Malaysia 6 years ago to study and now works in marketing. He says he loves his job and living here. But this crackdown has changed the way Raihan sees the nation and made him think about leaving.
This is a clear act of racism. That's the thing. A clear act of humiliating people. So that's why I feel scared about the future of the migrant people. I don't think that people will give their trust again for the government because they will be afraid.
Why do you need to be afraid if you are on a legal visa and a legal documents and you are having all the legal things? I mean, no one can go against you if you are having all the sets of documents. You are safe in anywhere in the world.
Detention centres have now become hotspots for COVID-19, with more than 700 reported cases. Rights advocates say the recent influx of migrants into these already crowded facilities has created perfect conditions for the virus to spread.
I don't know how true is this information, but if it's true, that makes sense, because they say that if, let's say, the lockdowns and the lockups were really crowded and the social distancing was not applied, probably there is a high chance of spreading the virus, because let's say the cameras are packed of immigrants, right?
But Malaysia's
I don't know how, but again, we do not know how true is this.
Minister rejects the criticism.
Kita selamatkan mereka, tempatkan di tempat yang terbaik untuk menjaga kesihatan mereka. Jadi kalau nak kata kerajaan Malaysia tidak berperi kemanusiaan kepada parti ini juga tidak betul.
Only state media were allowed into government press conferences. Several requests to interview the senior minister, home minister and his deputies were declined.
You see, I do not understand actually why they are trying to say that they are actually trying to portray that Malaysian politicians, they are actually not allowed to interview with other except for the state media. When you actually give this type of statements, it's actually showing that indirectly that they are manipulating the information and what information can go out and can go in. If you know, in Malaysia there's a lot of newspapers, there's a lot of news agencies or broadcast televisions that they are pro-opposition, and it's very common. I mean, for me, in terms of freedom of press in Malaysia, it's quite open, and I never found anywhere in Malaysia that they are very biased in terms of sharing the news. For example, like they have a lot of news agencies which are probably, they will not always be pro-government, and they may be pro-opposition, and people have different views. And if, let's say, Malaysian authorities, right, or the Malaysian people who are working in the government sectors, they do not want to give an interview, it's because probably they are battling COVID and they have to make much more decisions towards all the people in Malaysia, not only specifically talking about the illegal migrants workers. They have to fix a lot of economical issues which are impacted. The business that are locked or went bankrupt. And actually Malaysian government, which they not actually informed, that one of the biggest benefits they give is the moratorium for your loan repayment. They give a lot of monetary funds, help towards SMEs and small businesses, that they give out a lot of bonuses for the government staff because of the COVID-19, and for the frontliners, how many benefits they give. I mean, these things that are actually not really highlighted, they're just telling that okay, they're not actually battling it. So in my own opinion, there are quite a bigger issues to handle rather than handling someone who came to the country illegal and doesn't have any illegal documents to support. And let's start off with this.
Frontline health workers say the raids are creating fear and mistrust amongst vulnerable populations, making it harder to contain the spread of coronavirus. At this health clinic, foreigners queue to be tested for COVID-19.
Here our workers are going for a test of COVID-19, and again I'm telling you, this is have to be incurred at cost, and by cost what I mean, it have to be incurred by someone, which is the government of Malaysia. And just can they just at least give a credit that they are run a free test and they're trying to control, minimize the risk, and give them and separate from the ones who are infected and non-infected. And in fact, actually, many people were complaining about when they get back to Malaysia, they need to stay in the quarantine zone, and like, I mean, some of them, they were used to stay in hotel, and there are a lot of reports that probably the food was not nice. But in the long run, when you look at the effort that they are trying to do, and if you are staying there, let's say for 14 days, there is nothing going to be wrong if you don't eat McDonald's or you do not eat any of the luxury food, because that is something that is provided by the government. But of course, later on, they implemented something that you need to pay up for your own stay. And again, people were complaining. I mean, you receive it for free, you complain. You pay for yourself and for your own quarantine zone facilities, you again complain. I mean,
but the line used to be much longer. Since the raids began, there's been less demand for free testing.
They may be apprehensive about coming forward because of the possibility of them being exposed, and then the possibility of perhaps being apprehended by the authorities. Yeah.
So here he says, the doctor says here, it says we are able to provide them free testing in that zone and area, but they are the ones who do not want to come because they are afraid of their documents. I mean, in the long run, if you are illegal and you know it, you are even afraid, but you are causing a lot of other harm by you staying in that area, and you do not know whether you are infected or not, and you are actually infecting other people. So that's why immigration had to step in and take them out from the zone. That's what I assume.
For being undocumented.
Dr. Ahmed Faisal Padaus is the president of Mercy Malaysia, which runs these health programs for migrants and refugees.
There definitely would be extra pressure now for those who are undocumented, pressure on them to decide whether they should come out for testing or not.
Does that make your job harder?
Well, it makes our job a bit more complicated, I will say. If there is someone or a group of people who turn out to be positive later, and we've missed them, and then they go on to infect others, and then create another cluster.
At the ending of the video, there were a lot of kind Malaysians who were actually giving donations to the migrant workers, as well as they were providing food for them, and that's how the video ends. So basically, in my own experience and in my own opinion that I know, having the legal documents and having all your sets of documents to prove your stay in Malaysia, or before applying any bank account or loan or verifying your documents in anywhere, you need to have a lot of sets of proving documents in Malaysia. So I've been dealing with it, very common, and I believe it's in every country. So making it as a human right issue is actually quite big, because in fact Al Jazeera, where they are coming from, the Qatar, they have a lot of migrant worker issue on human right violations for a lot of Bangladeshi workers who actually die in hot weather there, and having inhumane working conditions in Qatar. So having this said, if you like this video, hit the like button, share among your friends, and thank you guys for watching.